Alright, I'm trying to make a video, Ghost. I'm trying to make a video. Alright. Hey, get down. What's up, guys? This is Dylan. I'm here for Broken Pictures. That's www.broken.pictures.com. And I want to talk Star Wars. Before we get into this, let me just say that I am a genuine hardcore Star Wars fan, and I know this is gonna might just generate a lot of upset people, but I mean I'm invested. I got the T-shirt. I mean, I've got all of them. I even got the Force Awakens, and I've got the 3D collector's edition. I am invested in Star Wars. I'm invested in seeing this done right. I'm invested in this being good. I want to see it done well. I want to see it good. And this is my first reaction to seeing The Last Jedi last night. And guys, I gotta be honest with you. See, invested. Made myself a smoothie. Dark side smoothie. So anyway, I got on my lip there. No. Alright, so there was a couple things that I liked about it. Let me just say that right off the bat. Let me say that I was disappointed. I was disappointed, guys. And I don't know what to say other than just telling you why I was disappointed. Although there were several things that I liked, it was just kind of meh for me, you know. The visuals, A+ superb. They were amazing. Really done well. Before I get started, let me say spoilers. There's gonna be spoilers. So if you're watching this and you're not down with spoilers, then it's time to go. I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Love you. But it's gonna be spoilerific. All right. So to me, there were some things that I liked. I really liked Laura Dern's character. We didn't see much of her, but I really liked the character development of Kylo Ren and what they did with him and Rey. I liked Luke as the new Yoda / Obi-Wan, and I liked the new force powers that Snoke put on display, and that he was just this force to be reckoned with. The worlds, I like the new worlds that they showed. The new animals, and that's about it, guys. Well, first let me say that the entire film was built up like it was the last in the trilogy, like it was the destination, only to get there and find out it was just a bridge. You know, and second installments can be completely satisfying. Empire Strikes Back, for one. And this film, I'm sorry guys, but it was more of a Clone Wars than an Empire Strikes Back for me. And I just felt like it was trying to be something it wasn't. That it was trying to be this huge epic film, and it just fell. It was a little lackluster. And so, and I think it was a little disingenuous with all the like Rotten Tomatoes ratings we were seeing. All the excuse me, all the reviews were like, this is the greatest film since Empire. Like, I even watched a couple on YouTube that had taken place after the movie came out, and they were talking about, like, they did one video talking about what they didn't like about it and how it just really it didn't fulfill what they hoped. And then they did another one that was a review talking about how it was great and it was the best movie since Empire. So they're playing both sides, and I don't really think that's fair. I don't think that's right. That's just marketing. And all they're promoting, I think it was like 93% on Rotten Tomatoes was the critic rating, but that's not the overall rating, because the public rating was like 50%, and I didn't even see that until after I had watched the film and was started looking it up and was like, what is going on? What did I just see? Why do I feel this way about it when it was supposed to be this big thing? And I know sometimes you can go into a film with huge expectations and it just doesn't do it for you. But I did that with, I'm a huge Marvel fan, and I did that with Avengers. I've done that with just about every Marvel movie. And I'm pretty fair when it comes to it. I'm a pretty fair guy. And some things I'll give a shot, and then some things it just doesn't do it for me, and I got to be honest. And this one just didn't do it, and that's Two-Face, by the way. By the way, check out all my Star Wars paraphernalia up here. This is where I put all my favorite movie stuff and kids stuff over the kids movie area. So anyways, I'm invested. I want to see this do well. Anyways, so here's my list of 10 things that I didn't like about the new Star Wars. I just kind of felt disappointed. So here we go. Let's get into the first thing. Snoke's death. He was built up to be like the Emperor. He had this huge backstory. And I just think that the handoff between J.J. Abrams, I know she's very distracting. It seems like the handoff between what J.J. Abrams had in mind for some of these characters, Rian Johnson was just like, nah, I don't need that. And he kept stressing, kill the past, do away with the past, but at the same time mimicking some aspects of Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. So, yeah, a callback is one thing, but anyways. So yeah, Snoke is built up as this super powerful, mysterious being, only to be killed in an ironic way where he's just overconfident, and it was unsatisfying, and I think it was a waste of character because there was so much backstory, and fans and everybody had been trying to figure out who this character was. They was just shrouded in mystery. Who this guy is? Where did all those scars come from? Why was he bigger than life in the first film? And now he's got all these amazing powers, and he's tossing Rey around like a rag doll, and when she tries to force grab her lightsaber, he spins it around and whacks her in the head, and only to be just like fooled by Kylo Ren while he's literally doing two things at once, showing, oh look, I'm gonna cut her with my lightsaber, and then manipulating the other at the same time. He just seems more powerful than that, and Andy Serkis did a great job. When he was on screen, he was amazing, and I loved his character, and it was a bit of a letdown just to see that not pan out. It was very reminiscent of Darth Maul, and the episode 1 got a lot of flack because it built up this really badass character and just basically chopped him in half and was done with him. So much so that in the animated series, they went back and brought Darth Maul back to life and gave him like spider legs and a robot half underbody thing. Anyways, they might have to go back and do that with Snoke. I don't know, but anyways. Number 2, Rey's parents. Again, lots of build up only to be nobody, and reinforced with the child at the end. The reveal of her parents didn't feel profound and weighty like it should have. I feel like they were trying, and it just didn't manifest. If it was music, it was, I mean, if you compare it to music and the rhythm of what happened, it was like they're marching and you got race parents, and it was just a blip on the radar. But think about how profound it was when Vader revealed that he was Luke's father. And I know they're going against the trope of that and everything, but I find this to be true in a lot of modern movies, that the rhythm is just marching. It's just marching. That happened, that happened, and it's almost just like, I mean, you're listening to techno, and it's monotonous, only with a little doo-doo here and there, and there's no weight, there's no gravity, there's no veritas, and or not veritas, gravitas, and where, you know, you've got the rhythm and then it stops. There's a rest, and then you come in, pow, and that's the impact. There's no impact in that, and it should have been, because he was using it. He was obviously, it's debatable whether or not he was lying to her. I think in the moment that he's probably lying to her, trying to get her as his apprentice, and he's manipulating her, because that was another thing I loved about how Snoke manipulated Kylo Ren. From one moment, he's, you know, you're such a disappointment, to the next moment, oh, my apprentice, I'm so satisfied, he's the one, he's brought Rey to me, and he's really just, I mean, he's throw him out and reel him in, dangling carrot, just leading him around the whole time, playing against his weaknesses, knowing that he needs that affirmation, and that describes why Kylo is such a titty baby, and why he's so whiny and he throws tantrums, and because he's still a child in a lot of ways, but he's that way because he's been so manipulated in the head by Snoke, and I love how they showed why he's like that. And so then in turn, he starts to do the same thing to Rey. And it only makes sense that he'd be lying and say, you know what, you're nobody, really, you're nobody. And I think I just think that should have been more weighty rather than just a blip on the radar. All right, so number 3, Yoda's Force Ghost. What the heck was that? That didn't look anything like previous Force Ghosts, or what a Force Ghost looks like as far as we know in the Star Wars universe. It was almost like a full physical manifestation of Yoda, which was weird. And half the time you could even see like the blue glow around him. And I like that he was silly and fun. He was a little bit too silly, giggling and playing with his feet or whatever the heck he was doing. It got a little weird, but it was just weirdly too realistic, and so it also seemed like it only served the twist at the end that Luke was projecting his physical image, and to make it more realistic instead of the way it was, and it just seemed to be kind of feeding into that, and I don't know, I didn't care for it. It didn't set right as far as what Star Wars is and what is consistent in this universe. I'm all for bringing new things to the universe. I'm down with that, but certain things are consistent, the way things work, and if they're going to change, you've got to explain why it's changed. Otherwise, the fans aren't tracking with you, and I just wasn't tracking. All right, number 4, the Sillyness. It was probably the funniest Star Wars movie, except maybe Phantom Menace with Jar Jar and all that business. But I mean, I was a kid when I saw it. I knew it was meant to be for children, so I gave it a pass. But this one was a war movie, and it was meant to be for adults and kind of play to the kids a little bit. But there was just too much silliness going on. And from the prank call at the beginning with Poe prank calling General Hux, and granted, it was funny, I enjoyed all the jokes, but it wasn't Star Wars. It wasn't consistent in the tone. I think the tone suffered because of it. And everybody had comic relief. Everybody was a comedian in this one. Everybody had one-liners. So in the original trilogies, you've got the droids delivering, and then some of the characters delivering some comic relief. Situational is funny here and there, and then you've got Han's sarcasm that played into it, but it was a different tone of comedy, and and it was consistent with his character, not just like, hey, I'm going to step out of character and tell a joke right here. And if Poe is to be the new Han Solo, which seems like they're building him up to be in a weird sort of way, he's the same. It's like if Han Solo was all in on the Rebel force from the very beginning, but he's got the same personality, the same tone almost, and so use that. I mean, I don't know. It didn't feel right. It didn't settle. Because I mean, okay, so in this one you've got Finn and you've got BB-8 who are the comic relief, who bring levity to the situation when it's getting too dark or whatever. And then you've got Luke and Yoda. Yoda was original comic relief in Empire, and I mean, he was funny, he was silly, he was goofy, he had lost his marbles, and it was but Luke kept that tone. He wasn't just like cracking in there with him, and the tone stayed the same even though Yoda was silly. And then you've got I liked how Luke was the new Yoda. He was silly, go away, get out of my face, all that type of stuff. And it made sense. It fit well within the universe and the context of what they were doing. But to give everybody else these jokes too just kind of pulled away from just the focus of where it should have been going. I think it distracted from the tone of the film. And a lot of these Star Wars movies, and you're dealing with people who come in with a sense of nostalgia, and you've got to play to that to a certain degree, with at the same time building something else. But I mean, you've still got to hit all the certain tones, and it just didn't. Granted, it was funny. There were good jokes. I didn't think it was in the tone of Star Wars. Just me, but. I think Poe should have had the same witty sarcasm. Number 5, Captain Phasma, who's basically the next Boba Fett. I mean, you want to talk about callbacks? They basically recycled Boba Fett into another character where she's got cool armor and then a stupid death. And a lot of people thought she was dead in the first one, except for all the marketing coming out with the actress still there. Because she was still on Starkiller Base when it exploded, maybe. Who knows? But then you got this again, where she could have died, she could have not died, because they established her being shot by a blaster, that her armor is tough, that it might be able to not be penetrated by fire or an explosion, a blaster. So she could have very well survived this as well and then come back for the third round. But it was just another really cool character that was misused or not just used to its full potential. Number 6, Carrie Fisher. I mean, this is treading lightly, but I mean, granted, they didn't know ahead of time that she was going to die until after they had already filmed the entire movie. But there were so many opportunities to go ahead and just let that happen so that they wouldn't have to try to deal with it in the next movie, because they've already said they're not going to do a CG version of Carrie Fisher in this next one. And that there was nothing filmed. So I mean, the best I can understand that they might do it is in the roll credits or not the roll credit, but in the rolling scene in the very beginning, the rolling title, where they say that, you know, and it's kind of sad, but they say that General Organa has succumbed to her injuries and has died, and now the Rebel Alliance moves on without her. That's all I can think of how they might deal with that without having any material to shoot with her to fix that. But what I'm saying is, like, they could have easily, or not necessarily easily, but there was ample opportunity to deal with that in this movie and just let that happen. And also I feel, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but I like, she just wasn't done justice in this film at all, really. I mean, she was put on the back burner, and I'll deal with that in a second. Number 7, Luke's Force hologram and killing him off. It's kind of like, I know you're building a new trilogy, and you've got, you know, you want to give the fans something and throw in the old cast members and do something with them, but are we really gonna kill one every movie? Because now you're gonna have to, unless you decide that in the third one that General Organa is off doing something somewhere else and never shown on screen, and she survives. I don't know. Unless they have some footage that they didn't use for this one or something, I don't know. We'll just have to see with that. But I'm just saying, why not hold on to these characters until it makes more sense to kill them off? I just thought it was a little bit predictable. Okay, so we're passing the torch on to Rey, and so we got to get rid of Luke. I get that, because Obi-Wan died, you know, gave himself to the Force, and Luke came up. But then he was trained by Yoda, and then Yoda gave himself to the Force, and Luke finished his training on his own. And so, you know, Rey could finish her training on her own. She's got the books, but I mean, she's got Force Ghost Luke and Yoda now on her back, or in her corner. So, I mean, it's possible. It just, I don't know. It just didn't make a lot of sense, and I'll get more into that later. Luke not being there to confront Kylo in person, it felt cheated. It felt cowardly. I mean, he literally phoned it in. Okay, so another one was the Deus Ex Machina, if I'm saying that correctly. I always fub the first word. But anyway, Luke coming in after he said several times, you know, I'm not going to go in. I'm not going to be the guy that comes in and saves the universe. I'm not going to be the guy you want me to be. It's not going to work out how you want it to work out. And then he does it anyway. Of course. We expected it, but it happened in an unexpected way. Props to Rian Johnson for that. But it didn't make a whole lot of sense because it wasn't really established. Okay, so we see Kylo and we see Rey having a bridge and being able to see each other and speak to each other several times throughout the film. And even at one point, touching hands. And Luke walks in and he sees Kylo and Rey together. And so, that is not really, because they're all Force sensitive. They're all Force users. So, I mean, that doesn't really establish, one, that just anybody can see a Force hologram, or that person can interact with other people, except for the person that they're bridging to. Like Luke did with Leia, giving her Han's dice from the Millennium Falcon. But everybody could see her. At first I thought it was just him and her having a moment, and that was great. But then he goes out and basically has a lightsaber duel with Kylo, and then they show that he's not disturbing the salt with his feet, but he's still having a lightsaber duel with Kylo, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I didn't think it was that consistent, and I may be wrong about the lightsaber duel, but I'm pretty sure that they connected lightsabers. And I know for a fact that after Kylo picked up those dice and they disappeared in his hand. So he's a Force user, but I mean, Luke was already gone, and so that just didn't make sense to me. So just the fact that Luke even showed up in the first place was awesome. We were hoping for that. We were hoping that he would change his mind and he would be the reluctant hero, but he wasn't. He wasn't a reluctant hero. He was just reluctant, and he never became that hero. He shows up and he's buying time for the rebels, and then he goes out and he takes all the fire that Kylo and the First Order can muster. And it's like, he's such a badass. This is so amazing. He walks out unscathed, brushes off the dust, keeps going, and then so calls Kylo out. And Kylo Ren has to go down there himself and confront Luke. And then they have words and exchange. And then we come find out that he never even left his cave. He literally phoned it in. He wasn't even there. It just seems cowardly. And then on top of that, like, why did he look younger? Like, I get, okay, well, that's what he looked like last time they saw him. But I mean, that was just vanity. That was vanity. And then he gets to, that's his balance with the Force, and he's gonna go be one with the Force. No, that was a cop out. He cowardly just phoned it in. He never even left his cave. He never did anything besides just sit there and make a hologram, show up, and I don't have to do anything. I can just do it from across the universe, which, by the way, is unestablished in the Star Wars universe. A Force ghost through, planets and light years away, possibly. Connections, in the other ones, they could feel when somebody was near. They could feel the disturbance in the Force. It was general, but it wasn't, Luke is a master now. He's been disconnected he disconnected himself from the Force for who knows how long. He banished himself there and never became the hero. He never became the hero. He was just reluctant. He was just a grumpy old person. He was a pathetic, grumpy coward. He was a reluctant hero that never actually became the hero. He only faked it because his droid made him feel guilty. That was the only reason he did it, is because R2 played the image of Leia. You're my only hope. That was the only reason he even trained Rey. And potentially the only reason he ever sent his Force hologram across this mystic whatever. Anyways, I wasn't buying it. He's a faker. He faked it. Basically what this says is that you can, it's saying that you can be a dick and still be considered a hero. And that's not cool. That's not cool with me. It doesn't make sense. And I get that, there's a little good and a little bit of bad in everybody and that type of thing. But, it was just a vanity project. It was just a vanity project for Luke. And it was self-serving, and I don't think that he redeemed himself. Number 8, Rose as a potential love interest for Finn. For one, I don't see why she was really even necessary. For one, granted, I love the Rose character. I love that she came from nothing. She was a nobody. And there was that running theme throughout the film that nobodies can be somebodies. And so I liked that part. But when you're talking about trimming the fat, she just was an unnecessary character. Finn was off doing his thing and never really got to fulfill any type of setup with Rey and his crush on Rey that was set up in the first movie, except for at the end when they hugged and she asked, find out about Finn. What's Finn's status? And it just wasn't. They didn't do anything with that relationship. It just seemed like a waste when you've already got tension, love interest tension between Finn and Rey and Kylo, and then now Poe, and then according to some people, Poe and Finn. I mean, just why add another point to the triangle? It was unnecessary. Plus, Finn's story, I thought it was a detriment to Finn's story because he needed somebody else to teach him the lesson that Rose taught him. And that makes it less valuable. That makes him less interesting as a character. He and BB-8 and Poe could have done that mission alone. If Finn would have taken BB-8 and gone to that planet and gotten there and then got stuck and had to find the code breaker and had to find somebody to help him shut it down, he would have had to figure that out, and that would have been more satisfying for him, for the growth of his character, to have to do those things on his own, to have to figure those out, and you get to bring Poe, you get to strengthen Poe and Finn's relationship as they banter back and forth, and you get to have fun with Finn's over the top silly comedy and Poe's sarcasm, and then BB-8, who is always a good match for Finn. So it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I think it just made Finn less interesting because he didn't find this out on his own. He didn't find this out for himself. It didn't develop his character in a satisfying way to me. It would have been a lot more interesting had he figured that out for himself. And I mean, just trim the fat. Number 9, Benicio del Toro's character. I love Benicio del Toro. He's a very talented actor, but this character was quirky in a nice way, but like the little stutter that he was doing it was kind of inconsistent. It wasn't near as bad as Forrest Whitaker's character in the last movie or in Rogue One. Like it wasn't that bad at all. So I'll give him that. But the whole point of his character was just to get them caught. And even going back to the Finn thing, that would have made more sense. It would have made more sense for Benicio del Toro's character had Finn gotten himself in with somebody like that by himself, instead of somebody being there to be his checks and balances and still getting into it. There just wasn't a whole lot of depth to the character. He was one note, and he could have been more. And he was basically there for one point, just to show Finn that that war is selling to both sides, and there's no good or bad, or however he put it. And even, I know I'm going back to the Finn thing, but even the things that Rose showed him about the people, telling him look closer, had he seen that on his own, it would have made him a much stronger character. And anyways, I'm going to move on. This is number 10. Poe Dameron. He was originally supposed to die in the first one, in The Force Awakens, but for whatever reason they kept him, and now I'm like, Oscar Isaac is a great actor, but I'm kind of over Hollywood's love affair with Oscar Isaac. He's in everything, and it's getting to where some of his characters are just, he's this, almost like Tom Cruise. He's the same person in every movie he does. And don't hate me, I love Oscar Isaac. He's a great actor. Some things not so well. Apocalypse and X-Men, I don't think that was his fault necessarily. But anyways, I'm like, you're gonna put Leia on the back burner to give Poe a bigger part in the story, when at the time they didn't know that Carrie Fisher was going to die, and they were planning on giving her a bigger role in the next film. Why? I mean, you literally put her in a coma injured her and put her in a coma just so she could set out and have that moment where she force busts through the door and busts Poe. And it was just, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Even though I liked Admiral Holdo, I thought she was an interesting character. I thought the banter between her and Poe was good. I liked their interactions. I wish that she hadn't died because I thought she was an interesting character. But I mean, I'm kind of over pushing characters out of the way just to give Poe a better seat in the film. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and I thought it was self-serving, and it sounds like something the studio would do. Coming in, it's like, oh, this actor is a big deal. He wants more money. He needs a bigger part in the film. And so what do? You backseat somebody like Carrie Fisher, who's a mainstay, who's a strong female character, and you're going to put her on the back seat to build up Poe, who wasn't even supposed to be there in the first place. Anyway, so the entire Poe, Holdo, Leia storyline was just to serve Poe Dameron, in my opinion. It just seems that way, that everything was going towards Poe having that realization. And that just goes to another point with characters. When they find out things on their own through their mistakes, it makes them a stronger character instead of other people having to show them or teach them necessarily. Or they go through situations and I don't know. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know. I know I'm saying that a lot, but I don't think it was strong. I thought it was weak. I thought it was weak. So bonus 11. So bear with me. Everybody loved the kid at the end, force pulling the broom to himself. But I think that was self-serving. Now don't turn me off right now. Just hear me out. Hear me out. Because what everybody who is force sensitive can now force pull. I mean, think about the original series, the original trilogy, how long it took Luke to do that type of thing. Anakin couldn't force pull things before he was trained. And now Rey, who supposedly is this great Jedi, or this great person who's force sensitive, is pulling things left and right and combating combating Kylo Ren, and even besting him in battle with no training at all, just because she's spunky or whatever and she's got the Force. So and then you've got Leia force pulling, who, as far as we know, has not had any training. I think it diminishes the overall Star Wars universe, just so we can see something gimmicky and cool. Yeah, what happened to them just having a high aptitude and inclination to the Force, like with Anakin? And I know I'm going back to prequel territory, and that's off limits for some people, but even Luke just having an aptitude for the Force, and not suddenly just, because then you could obviously spot somebody that the Force was real. And it's, at this point it's an ancient religion, and I mean, they even played that in the original trilogy, where a lot of people didn't believe in the Force. And in the first one in this trilogy, Han coming out and saying, you know what, it's all real. I've found out that it's real. It's all real. And telling that to Finn and Rey, who just thought it was a myth. I mean, it's easy to spot somebody who's force sensitive because they're pushing and pulling stuff around all the time. Then how is it that a forgotten thing? How is it not a widely known religion? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Anakin / Vader was supposedly the chosen one, and best among all Jedis at the Jedi Order's peak, and he wasn't that powerful. So I mean, to say that this kid out of nowhere and Rey and everybody else who's Force sensitive can suddenly just, start pulling it. And granted, the Force is gonna equal itself out and give other people powers, and when there's evil rise and all, I get all that, but it makes it difficult to reset the characters into a next trilogy because they're already at this level, and it diminishes where what's come before, to where these characters had to build up to that, and now these people are starting at this level. So where do you go? Suddenly they're way better than even Vader at his peak, and I think it's shooting themselves in the foot, and it's not in respect to the greater Star Wars universe and how things work in this universe, and if something has changed, clue the audience in. Don't just assume that it's important now because it's happening right now and because I'm the one writing this. So that just didn't make I was saying this a lot. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't think it was as strong as it should have been, as everybody claims it was. I don't think it was that strong a movie. I enjoyed it. It was fun, but I was ultimately let down. Anyways, thanks for watching. Check out my website. That's www.broken.pictures. This is Dylan. I'll see you guys later. Peace.